Welcome to Business Talk here on Business Tech, and I think we all have just one eye on the holidays at the end of what has been another brutal year. And I'm reminded of this stat in June of this year that roughly 50% of the South African workforce was working from home full time, which has fundamentally changed all of our views on where and how we work best. And there was a global survey of 80 companies by Colliers International, which is a leading real estate professional service and investment management company, showing that 86% of managers and decision makers say they typically expect employees to work between 1 and 4 days at home from next year. So I think hybrid work is really here to stay. And how is it going to be defined? How are we going to get the most out of this new experience? Well, that's something that is seizing many technology companies, not least of which I'm sure is Microsoft as well. And I'm joined by Colin Erasmus, Modern Workplace and Security Business Group Lead at Microsoft, just to talk about how Microsoft is now thinking about this within its Surface range, which is all about enhancing employee experience and boosting your productivity. Colin, welcome to the show.
Michael, thank you very much. Great to be here.
Now, we saw an initial move to remote working at the beginning of the pandemic, but businesses are now realizing that the real future is probably found, as I said, within this more hybrid work strategy. So how does the Microsoft Surface range enable businesses to support a more hybrid work strategy within this new modern workplace?
Michael, I think it's a great question, and we share the same thoughts around hybrid work. We do believe it's the new normal. It's here to stay. And I think we talk about how Surface is going to support a lot of this. We need to think about how we use technology to support the different ways and the different places where people work. So to your point, some people are going to be remote, some people are going to be at the office, and you're going to have a crossover. And I think that is really where the Surface device comes into itself. And remember, there's a whole range, and we'll maybe get into that in a second. But we really do have devices that are supporting you from a technology innovation point of view. So if you look at, and we won't get into technicalities, but if you look at the microphones as an example, and how the microphones really immerse you in the experience and the speakers within the device. So when you're working remotely, you do have that great experience. When you're working in the office, as an example, we have a product called the Hub. We'll get into that in a second as well, where you want to collaborate and people are missing that collaboration. So the Surface really does support that collaboration in many, many ways. And then I do have to, unfortunately, talk about security, because with remote work and with hybrid work, we've seen this. And once again, from a Surface point of view, we talk about this chip to cloud security notion, where Surface from the firmware, so in other words, from when you boot that machine up, you hit that on button, we have protection in the device to really help secure individuals. So really, those are just one or two of the small ways in which Surface is going to help support the hybrid work motion.
And as you said, it is a range. And you've got tablets, notebooks, the Hub that we'll get to. And it's very popular here in South Africa. And I think a key reason for this is how it works so well with Microsoft software products. And they are the ubiquitous software when you go and work in corporate South Africa anyway. Microsoft 365, we use it through the various media organizations I work in. And you refer to this with the phrase better together. Can you just expand on how Microsoft Surface and solutions like Microsoft 365 are in fact better together?
Michael, the first thing that we want to try and do for a lot of our business users or a lot of our users out there is reduce complexity. I think we're in a world at the moment, you mentioned it, a lot of complexity. So that's the first thing we want to do, is reduce complexity. And then while we're doing that, we want to increase the agility and increase productivity of individuals. So there's really three ways that I like to look at it when we talk about better together. The first one is simplicity for IT. So we want to make sure under hybrid work, and these are the types of scenarios that we get. I have colleagues, for instance, that have joined Microsoft that I've never met. IT had to get a device to these individuals, and we ship the device directly to the individual without having to go past IT. So these are the technologies where we look at what Surface has to offer, plus what Microsoft 365 has to offer, and these technologies are called mobile management or Intune, where we've got the ability to actually ship a device directly to an individual and provision the software that they need without IT actually even having to touch the device. So that it really talks about simplicity for IT. That's one of the examples. The other one that we like to look at, we spoke briefly about it, is this security notion from chip to cloud. So we've got hardware that is enabled with things like advanced firmware. So we want the ability to, via the cloud, update the technology. So whether it's the hardware that you're updating, the firmware that we typically talk about, or whether it's a operating system that you're updating, or whether it's an application that you're updating, that's where the Surface and Microsoft 365 come together to give you what we would call a defense in-depth strategy. So they work better together, really. And the last one, and I think one of the most important ones, is the employee experience or the employee engagement. We've seen some very interesting stats through research that we've done that actually show that people are saving up to 9 hours a week in productivity using Microsoft 365 and Surface. And that really is how it is streamlined onto the device, how we do what I would call mundane tasks or tasks that we do on a daily basis, speeding that up through the performance that the device gives us, as well as technology like Microsoft Teams that sits on top of that. So just, Michael, one or two examples of how these things work better together.
It's not just technology. You touched on such an important point, the psychological needs of human beings in their work. Autonomy, there's three in the HR kind of framework. Autonomy, the sense of ownership of things. Connection, a sense of belonging and helping people connect even though they're working remotely. And mastery, the sense of usefulness. And I think you're talking about how technology connects all three of those together in a very interesting and useful, practical way in this new workplace that's changing all the time. I think now so more than ever. In your experience, what are the big struggles that business decision makers face in this context, and how can Microsoft Surface Range help them solve for some of those challenges?
So I think you touched on the one up front, which is that employee engagement. I think it is so critical today under hybrid work that we are engaged with our employees, that we make sure that our culture is right, that we make sure that we're giving employees the tools that they need to thrive in this environment. And I think through the innovation of the hardware within Surface, through the connection of Microsoft 365 as an example, we really are giving individuals that experience today. You know, we take a look at the performance of the hardware as an example. Now, one of the big considerations in business today is how do I modernize my device and my infrastructure in order to give that experience. And we also have, and we'll go through the range, I think, in a second, but you'll see that we've got a range of devices that meet the needs of most people. So whether you're on the road and you need a lightweight, powerful device, whether you're in the office and you're trying to collaborate with individuals, there is really something within the range that does it. The other big one is cost savings. You can imagine some of the business challenges that we're seeing today is cost savings. So people wanting to, as an example, in some instances, people may have two devices. You may have a laptop and you may have a tablet. I think what Surface offers you in the range is the ability to blend those two into one. We also offer advanced management technologies on these devices that gets rid of a lot of that pain. So let me just give you one example. We support a technology called Windows Hello, which is really a password-less technology. So I don't have to remember passwords. I can use biometrics, facial recognition, or a fingerprint to log on. And what that does is that saves us huge amounts of time. So the total economic impact study from Forrester said that it saves up to 78% of IT's time and costs from that perspective. So I think those are just a couple of the examples where these are the business problems that we're trying to solve for. So the employee experience, productivity of individuals, the cost saving, and then last but not least, in many instances, security, that reputational damage if something goes wrong. Once again, that chip to cloud consideration. So a couple of examples there.
And in terms of the range, I mean, you mentioned this large range of Surface laptops, so that it caters for every profile. If you need to be more mobile, if you're more fixed, could you just walk us through these different Surface devices and how they each cover the specific user needs that you've addressed?
Yeah, Michael, I think it's important to go back to that hybrid work motion, because what we are trying to do here is we're trying to make sure that we're enabling people that work in different ways and in different places to have the best experience and to be productive. So from the bottom of the range, we have a device called the Surface Go. It really is our smallest device, our most lightweight device. And the intent of that, LTE enabled. So the intent of that is for somebody that's on the road, somebody that's going all the time, that wants to launch their office applications. The device is absolutely perfect and allows you to remain connected. Then there's really our Pro range, and this is the device, or the Surface device, that most people would be aware of. It's the one that's got the kickstand. It's a 2-in-1 device, so the keyboard comes off the top, so you can use it as a tablet. You can clip the keyboard in as an example. It's got the kickstand, stands up very nicely. And that range has really been broadened out over the years. We now have the Pro X, which is the bigger version of the product, so somebody wanting a bigger screen real estate. Then we have Surface Laptop. That is our everyday laptop. So somebody looking for an everyday type Surface device that is mostly doing a fair amount of work, not heavy tasks, maybe not running CAD programs as an example. That really is the laptop range. Then we have the Book, the Surface Book. This is the top end, the high performance device. It is actually, the keyboard actually does clip off the screen. And then we've got the Studio device, which, if you think about it, is the desktop. Not mobile, it needs to remain on a desk. We're finding high-end performance. We're finding a lot of graphic designers, as an example, using a device. And then really at the top of the range is the Surface Hub. This really is the device. It's a whiteboard device, integrated whiteboard device that you would integrate into meetings that you're having. So it allows you to actually collaborate with colleagues and share, and really does allow people that are in the room and out of the room to collaborate, that we don't really forget about anybody. So that really is the range that exists. And as you can see, I think it gives a little bit of something to everyone depending on your needs.
And I mean, I know from my personal experience that the designers will probably go with something, of that kind of fixed nature. They're paginating, they're laying out magazines. My sound engineers as well, they like those machines. I prefer the tablet with the kickstand, the Pro. It's nice for the studio. I can just pop it up. And, I've got my notes right in front of me and I can look into the camera. It really is something for everyone. And I think many may be convinced that the Microsoft Surface is the device for them. But to those who decide to buy these devices, what are the other services that they can expect from Microsoft as a customer? Because it is so much more than just about providing the hardware.
You're spot on, Michael. And I think there we really need to have a look at Microsoft's direction over the years, right? So I think we were very well known as the productivity company that brought out Office in many respects, and it's gone so much further now with the cloud offerings that we have. And I think that's what makes Surface so incredible as well. Linked to Microsoft 365 is having the ability to interact with the cloud, to be able to move from device to device as well. And Michael, the one discussion that we never had around Surface as an example are the accessories as an example. So, not only is it the hardware from a notebook point of view, or from a laptop point of view, all the accessories that come with it that are designed to work with Surface. And so you go, Michael, the AI capabilities that we now have. So it really is, to your point, it's not just about the hardware, it's about the ecosystem and the platform that we bring to bear, and that advanced security. So I think customers can look forward to a fairly broad range of product sets from Microsoft.
Colin Erasmus, Modern Workplace and Security Business Group Lead at Microsoft. It's been fascinating talking all about Surface with you in this new world of hybrid work. And it's little wonder that Microsoft has been and continues to be one of the top performing global tech businesses, and the way it's managed to pivot into this new cloud and hardware driven world of work has been truly incredible to watch. I'm sure you're going to have a fantastic festive break, and we'll probably catch up with you sometime in the new year. Take care.
Thank you, Michael.